For decades, researchers have been trying to communicate with Bigfoot. But have you ever wondered who he is trying to communicate with? These audio recordings might just answer that question.
From the recording of this strange creature in the woods to the many people who tried to dismiss the authenticity of the clip, here is how AI finally analyzed the 1967 Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot film. You actually won't be able to believe what it found. Many of you may understand the complicated nature of the search for the legendary cryptid that is Bigfoot. We know the score. It's been hotly debated about if this creature even really exists. One of the reasons for this century-old debate is the simple fact that unlike the birds in the sky and the bees in the woods, not too many of us can claim that we have ever laid eyes on the fabled creature. It is so bad that even when people come away from their so-called encounters with the legendary hominin with photos or clips of this being, the existence of this creature is still disputed because of the state of these recordings. You see, they just prove to be too unclear to be taken seriously. However, some have produced videos that are too difficult to ignore. One of such recordings that are too difficult to ignore is the Patterson Gimlin film. Considered to be one of the most controversial films ever made, this 59-second home video that was recorded in Northern California back in 1967 claims to have real recordings of the legendary Bigfoot. Imagine that? As you can imagine, every single frame has been analyzed by all the skeptics and the enthusiasts out there.
But the footprint evidence, the casts that were recovered from this site, I would be very convinced of the credibility of the film. The Sasquatch has retained the more primitive characteristic of a very flexible instep, a mid-foot flexibility, which can be seen here.
Some of them were even able to make use of modern AI tools to scrutinize these images. Although we may look a bit too enthusiastic at this point in time, it must be noted that none of these Bigfoot skeptics have been able to dispute the authenticity of this notorious clip. That said, can it be used as conclusive proof that Bigfoot really exists? As far as we know, it is believed that Roger Patterson, one of the parties involved in the recording of the infamous clip, passed a lie detector test when pressed about the authenticity of the clip. Bob Gimlin, the other party involved, also swore that the clip is real. So why is the debate as to the existence of Bigfoot still a hotly contested one? Let's find out. The Patterson Gimlin film. As far as we know, the search for Bigfoot may have gone on for longer than a century or so. We can say this because even ancient Sumerian texts, such as the legendary Epic of Gilgamesh, spoke of the Enkidu, a hairy monster that shared a resemblance with Bigfoot in description. With that in mind, we can see how this creature has plagued us with its existence for quite some time now. With that in mind, we can see how Roger Patterson got fascinated with the Bigfoot subject matter.
I don't believe that there was any possibility that this was a hoax. The creature, to both of us, appeared very natural. The muscle movement to us that it was much plainer, I think, than what it shows in the film. Indicated that it wasn't anything made up.
Back in the early 60s, Ivan Sanderson penned The Abominable Snowmen, legend come to life. Patterson managed to get his hands on a copy of this Bigfoot literature, and before he could say Bigfoot, our man was hooked. It didn't take too long for him to decide that he was going to be the one to find this creature once and for all. Well, with such lofty aspirations in mind, he knew that finding Bigfoot was not going to be an easy task. That didn't stop him from making 2 trips to Bluff Creek, California in the years between 1962 and 1964. Apparently, this spot was a well-known Bigfoot hotspot, and he couldn't miss out on the chance to track Bigfoot there. According to him, this proved to be a good decision because during these visits, Patterson claimed to have come across fresh tracks of the legendary creature. With these discoveries coming into play, Patterson figured that the best thing for him to do was to push on with this search. Surely, it would only be a matter of time before he ran into the creature itself. Alas, this is when some difficulty sets in. Although he was initially able to attract some other Bigfoot enthusiasts to his cause, they all proved to be thrill seekers who drew the ridicule of those itching not to take them seriously. As time went on, the difficulty of this search proved to be a deterrent to these Bigfoot thrill seekers, and before long, they all dropped out of the search for the big guy. Only Patterson decided to push on with his search for Bigfoot. Thankfully, he persisted because by 1967, he'd reap the fruits of his efforts. Funnily enough, Patterson would get this big break when he was accompanied by his friend Bob Gimlin. This was rather interesting because Gimlin proved to be something of a Bigfoot skeptic.
I'm Bob Gimlin. Was there? Yes. I was backing Roger Patterson up all the time. While he had the camera up, working with it, I was right in back of him.
Alas, he was also a supportive sort of friend, so he decided to accompany his eccentric buddy into the forest. After spending a few days in the forest, something interesting occurred on the 20th of October. Apparently, the two men were making their way upstream in the northeastern direction when they just happened to come across something that would change the world as we knew it at that point in time forever. On said day, the pair just happened to notice this massive figure that was doing all it could to crouch and hide behind a crow's nest. This proved to be a useless endeavor because this creature came to a height of about 7 feet. Add the brown shaggy hair that covered this massive figure's body, and we might as well call it a day, because both men realized that they were actually looking at the legendary Bigfoot. Truly unbelievable. Further examination of the creature told us that they may have been looking at a female. How else do you explain the prominent mammary glands found on the body of the beast? However, this still didn't mean that they were actually looking at Bigfoot, did it? Whatever the case may be, the pair was sure of one thing. They needed to get their cameras rolling. If not, they would miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime chance to get a good recording of the legendary Bigfoot. Luckily, the pair were able to get the recording of what proved to be one of the most controversial films in the world today. It was also the film that made Bigfoot world famous. Just take a look at this fascinating clip. Interestingly enough, the original Patterson Gimlin film has been lost to annals of time. What we have and what you just saw is one of the salvaged copies that we have at our disposal. Despite this, or perhaps due to this, there are still many debates when it comes to this well-known clip. For starters, we have noticed that the video was recorded from a distance of about 80 feet. In the clip, we can also see that the creature is making its way through a clearing right before it disappears when it goes into the forest. Why this detail is important is because the film runs out before Patterson can actually record it. The story goes that Gimlin tried to follow the creature into the forest, but Patterson stopped him because he didn't want to be left alone and unarmed. What if the creature's mate returns and tries to take him on? With that in mind, Gimlin is forced to stay back with his friend. As a result, they never see the creature again. The entire Patterson Gimlin footage only lasts for about a minute or two. As such, you can imagine that it wasn't too bizarre for the pair to be dissatisfied with the recording that they had with them. They figured that they needed more, so they were pleased when they realized that the creature they went on to call Patty had left a lot of footprints behind. That meant that they could have corroborative evidence of what they had just witnessed and recorded. Indeed, it must have felt that they were about to make history, as they were the ones who could credibly announce that they found Bigfoot. In view of this, the pair returned to their campsite so that they could get some plaster. Following this, they made their way back to the spot where they ran into the legendary creature so that they could make castings of those footprints. These casts and the iconic frame 352, which has the image of the creature looking back, have now become the subject of the most intense scrutiny when it comes to proving the validity of the encounter experienced by Patterson and Gimlin. Looking at the footage, the Bigfoot enthusiasts claimed that this must have been the real deal. The quality of the footage was just too good for the pair to be playing a prank on the world. They were even able to use AI to verify the authenticity of the iconic frame. This did nothing to convince the skeptics. To them, this was just another man in a gorilla costume or something. What do you guys think?
I realize that the conception of these giant creatures, they're called Bigfoot, is a fantastic subject, and a lot of people scoff at it and don't believe it. But I believe it. I'm convinced that these creatures exist.
The truth. Looking at the situation, we can say that most Bigfoot enthusiasts are convinced that the Bigfoot hunting pair must have run into something while they were in that forest. However, they cannot come to a general consensus as to what that thing was. It is so highly contested within the Bigfoot enthusiast camp as to what the pair must have run into that you'd think they were skeptics. Some even claimed that the pair must have run into a bear and mistook it for their legendary cryptid. If that was the case, how then do you explain the ape-like features of the creature in the footage? As such, you can see how this is considered to be one of the weakest, if not the weakest theory of them all. Considering this, some of these enthusiasts came to claim that Patterson and Gimlin must have run into some sort of unknown creature out there. Heck, it could even be another cryptid in its own right. They even figured that this must have been a remnant member of an extinct genus of apes known as Gigantopithecus. However, the paleontologists among us may be able to tell us that this creature went extinct about 300,000 years ago, so this can't be our guy. To take this further, not only is time not on our side when it comes to identifying this creature as a Gigantopithecus, there is no recording of this creature or its fossils ever being found in North America. Another reason why this creature couldn't be said to be the Gigantopithecus species is that Bigfoot is said to have some sort of relation to humans, and extinct creatures are believed to have no relations with humans. Nope, we're going to have to guess again. With that in mind, we may have to turn our attention to the theory that Bigfoot is some sort of extraterrestrial creature, maybe something similar to Chewbacca. However, it's unlikely that Bigfoot could be related to Han Solo's interstellar black market companion, so we may have to stay within the realm of our planet for this one. As such, we are compelled to deal with the actual debate of if Patterson and Gimlin actually caught a recording of the real deal. The theories. It is interesting to note that nobody has been able to debunk the authenticity of the Patterson-Gimlin film. That says a lot considering the advancement of AI today. You'd have thought that one of Claude's or OpenAI's powerful AI tools would have brought this mystery to an end once and for all. However, what you'd find is that not only has it been difficult to disprove, it has also been difficult to authenticate. That is not to say that there have not been many attempts to approve or disprove this vital piece of evidence. In fact, we can say that one of the most famous attempts to disprove the Patterson-Gimlin tapes came from an author known as Greg Long. If you want to know what Long had to say about these tapes, you can leaf through his 2004 book titled The Making of Bigfoot, The Inside Story. Without affecting the sale of Long's tell-all book, we can easily tell you that Long believes Patterson's film must be one of the best hoaxes out there. To start off with this debunking piece of work, the book tells us that the creature in the Patterson-Gimlin clip is not Bigfoot. No, he claims that it is just some guy in an ape suit. In fact, Long named the man to be someone called Bob Hieronymus. According to our Bigfoot impersonator, Patterson and Gimlin had reached out to him a few months before the recording of the infamous clip. They apparently came to him so that he could wear an ape suit so that they could make their fake Bigfoot film. Can you actually believe that?
Him and Roger were good buddies, so Roger came up with this idea, about this Bigfoot thing, and of course Philip Morris sent him the suit. Well, Bob come to me one day and said, we're looking for a strong guy, that could wear this suit. He said, and not, tell anybody. So he said, if you'd come up there and put the suit on, and go to California and do the film, we'll give you $1,000.
Why would you even agree to do something like that? Well, $1,000 is a lot of money, be it 1967 or be it 2025. They even promised to give him some more money if the film was a success. Could any of you guys say no to that offer? Who would you be harming by doing that anyways? If that is all true, what broke Hieronymus? Why would he reveal this truth after so many years? Turns out Patterson and Gimlin never paid for his Bigfoot impersonation services. Hoaxers and flakers? That's no good. Understandably, you can see why Hieronymus was happy to spill the tea. He also went on to tell us that the costume was beefed up with football paraphernalia so that he could look bigger and buff. Apparently, even the headpiece was just a dressed-up football helmet. He even claimed that the mammary glands that were mentioned earlier were Patterson's idea. He also went on to suggest that it was Patterson that directed the shot.
Greg Long finally wriggled it out of me, I wasn't going to tell anybody. That was my kind of a, what you call an ace in the hole. But you got your scientists and all those guys would take a look at that, they'd think a little bit different.
Then there is Long's second witness, Philip Morris, the man who made the Bigfoot costume. According to Morris, he is the one who made and sold the gorilla suit to the Bigfoot hunting pair at a cost of $435. Turns out that Patterson had asked him for ideas on how to make the arms look longer. Morris figured shoving a shovel handle into the sleeves should do the trick. He also claimed that he was the one who gave Patterson the idea to bulk the suit with football equipment. Turns out genius comes out in funny ways. As compelling as these accounts may be, you can sort of see the holes in the plot when you take a closer look at some of the details. For starters, there is no proof of this gorilla suit that Morris was on about. We know it's been more than 50 years now, but surely we would have seen it at some point in time, no? We haven't even seen a receipt for this thing, not even a piece of fabric of this so-called gorilla suit. As such, all we have to prove that this happened was the word of these men. Can we really give any credibility to what these guys are saying? That is why we cannot really say that we can take Morris seriously when he claimed that he made the gorilla suit out of Dynel. This is a synthetic nylon material that is typically used in fiber reinforcement plastic composite materials, especially for marine applications. Now, what on earth is that doing on a gorilla suit? To make this claim even less credible, Hieronymus claimed that the suit was made out of synthetic fur and the pelt of a dead horse. Add the fact that the latter claimed that the suit stank to the high heaven, and you'd find that these two had wildly contrasting accounts when it came to the description of this suit. Looking at both the stories, we are forced to believe Hieronymus' story because he added that detail about the smell of the suit. After all, that would be an important piece of detail to conclude when it comes to a story about Bigfoot. We are all too familiar with the pungent smell that many have attributed to the legendary cryptid. With that in mind, it is a bit troubling that Morris claimed to make the suit for Patterson and Gimlin, but he didn't describe it to have a smell. It's a bit even more worrying when we consider how this Bigfoot does not look as though there is a man in a suit at all. Just take a look at the muscular nature of the creature in the footage. As we can see the defined muscles on the body of the creature in the image, there is no way we can say that this is a man in a suit. In fact, if this was a man in a suit, surely there would be creases at the joints or something, especially in the elbows and knees.
So what do you got to gain by coming out and telling to the world the truth on this film?
Probably nothing, but I just want people to know the truth.
Surely we would have also noticed the materials in other parts of the so-called gorilla's body, especially when it moves. Instead, what we noticed again is the sinewy muscles of the body of the creature in the footage. Some of the experts that got a look at the clip even used their various AI tools to examine them. However, they weren't able to detect any anomalies that told them that this was some sort of hoax. With that in mind, we can say that this is either the real deal or one of the most advanced costumes ever, especially for the time in which the footage was recorded. Just for comparison, just take a look at the costumes that were designed for the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie that was released just last year, in 2024. Even with the poor quality of the recording, you can actually see the difference between the creatures in both videos. It's especially damning when we consider the fact that CGI was used to make the costumes in the movies. At the end of the day, it is still not as authentic as the creature that we see in the Patterson Gimlin clip. As such, we are left to ask, if Morris's suit was so good, why wasn't he the one that was making all the suits in all these movies back then? You may think we are being funny, but Morris did claim that he was a top costume supplier in Hollywood back in the day. Instead, we cannot even replicate that level of detail in said suit today. We are also left to ask why he was only able to make one of those suits if he was really the one who made this suit. Instead, what we find is that there's only one of these suits out there today. Really odd, isn't it? Especially as Morris tried to remake the suit. However, the second suit that he made didn't match up at all. Is it fair enough to say that this recreation proved that Morris may not be as credible as he may want to be? Just look at all the folds that we see in this second suit. With that in mind, if Morris is unable to remake the suit, he must be fraudulent at the very least. If you are still unconvinced about this because you think that Morris is a lot older and that he had lost some skill, then you may be mistaken. Remember that as time advanced, the technology had only gotten better. It gets even better because even with the level of advancement that we have seen, we still haven't been able to replicate this suit. Even the BBC tried to recreate the same suit, but they also failed. As such, it is not an age thing but a quality thing. Even when we talk about the fact that there were claims that the suit was bulked up with football equipment, we are forced to dispute it because when you look at Patty, her arms were just too long for this to be the result of some sort of padding. In fact, when you look at it, her arms were almost as long as her legs. With that in mind, it is fair to say that these claims of Morris and Hieronymus might be dubious. Maybe this creature in the footage is the real deal. Who knows? Maybe one day we will finally learn if we are able to confirm if this creature in this footage is the real deal. Maybe one day it will help us determine if Bigfoot is real. From the recording of this strange creature in the woods to the many people who tried to dismiss the authenticity of the clip, here is how AI finally analyzed the 1967 Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot film. You actually won't be able to believe what it found.